fact, um, in fact, one of the things that happens with students is that all of the stuff that they, let us say, um, encounter along the way of their practice, the stumbling blocks or the going back into the hindrances of whatnot, or the deeper fetters going all the way down to the instinctual level, that the students bring these things up and we deal with them, but we do it within the Dhamma context. And one of the differences within the Dhamma context is I'm very much available and willing to tell a student exactly what's wrong with the way that they're thinking is not correct, that they need to change their frame of reference, to look at it differently. And I know that within psychology that that's often reluctant to do, with the idea that I was taught was is that if you tell a guy what's wrong with him and he agrees with you, he'll so thank you very much, he'll get up and he'll waltz out of the place. But if you tell somebody something about themselves and they disagree with you, they'll stand up, get angry, and stomp out. In either case, you've lost your client or in danger of doing so. Therefore, you have to kind of let them figure out what's going on. But that's not the way that we work with the Dhamma, because we already assume with the Dhamma that everybody is doing it wrong in the first place, so they wouldn't be here trying to get it fixed.
So you can be more clear in that relationship, maybe, or more straightforward.
Yes, because it's not based upon the business model. And not only that, but it is based upon a model that is allowing us to become free from the business world. That it's very difficult to deal, let us say, in the marketplace while we're explaining to the customer how, let us say, problematic the marketplace is. Here we are selling the Dhamma, trying to say that it can't be sold, that it's got to be given away. You know, it just doesn't make a lot of sense in that regard. But the most important thing that I would like to get to start talking with you about today is something that you said about the retreat that you had done. And that one of the things that I think that this is also going to be extremely beneficial when you start thinking about it from the perspective of how you can sort of assist your clients in one way or another. Now, Anapanasati, as you probably know, is broken into 4 groups. Those 4 groups are what is called the Satipatthana, or the 4 foundations of mindfulness, being the body, doing body scans. Vedana is the feelings. Then there is Sita Nupassana, in the sense of learning to understand the mind. And the very first thing that we work with understanding the mind is it watching the breath, or has it just wandered away? And so we begin to understand the mind from a kind of a yes or no, but it gets much, much more sophisticated than that. And then we work with the Dhammanupassana, which is the actual objects of the mind. And here's something that is kind of not quite understood, because the sutras are not quite clear. But basically, the objects of the mind are of 2 types. One is wholesome and one is unwholesome. And unwholesome thoughts we call hindrances. But the thoughts in the mind that are not hindrances are going to be those things which are wholesome, that would have to do with what's happening right here, right now. How does this relate to the Dhamma? How is this a noble way of looking at things? How is this happiness, etc., like that? So the kinds of thoughts that keep us in the here now are useful, valuable, wholesome thoughts, and thoughts about what happened last month, or my granny died last year and I didn't get to say goodbye to her, or any of the things in the past or in the future wind up being sources of suffering. Now, this is going to be true for any human being, regardless of whether they're in psychotherapy or not, that the problems that we have in life are based upon, in fact, with Freud talking about developmental psychology, we begin to get the idea that during the development phase is when all of the little children make all the wrong decisions about their life. And this thing called NLP, or neuro linguistic programming, says that, yeah, but the map that you made as a kid is not the territory. The Buddha is saying, yeah, boy, that's exactly right. So let's stop using the map and start using the territory instead. And that's basically what the whole point is about. But now the one part that we really haven't talked about, but I will be Vedana. But in the sequence of events normally, is what happens is that the student is there breathing, watching their breath, and then the mind will wander away because they're a new student. In fact, it will wander away even for the Arahat. The mind wanders away. Never mind, start again. And so when the mind wanders away, we say, never mind, start again. We come back to the breath, but we do so in one of two possible ways. One is begrudgingly, one is unhappily, one is, oh, I don't like this mind, it's out of control, maybe I'm doing it the wrong way. And the other one is to do it with right effort. Right effort is by gladdening the mind. And I'll give you the example of right effort is the very minimal amount that's needed to get the job done, whatever the right effort is. On whatever project that you're ever doing, the right effort is just enough effort to get the job done. So with that, what we are looking for with that right effort is actually if the effort is joyful. This is why we work on gladdening the mind. And we can gladden the mind with little statements like, aha, I caught you. When we see the mind wandering away, instead of being disappointed with the mind wandering away, we start changing those old bad habits from I don't like what's happening into I like it because I can create a little success. And so we gladden the mind, and when we gladden the mind, and we can come back and take a really deep breath. And we always start with that first deep breath. That's, in fact, the beginning of Anapanasati. The Buddha makes the deep breath most importantly. And now the neuroscientists are figuring out that that's true. That if you're taking a shallow breath, that the frontal cortex will almost shut down, leading us back into the reptilian brain, which we would call the instinct. The instinctual brain, the part of the mind that is survival-oriented. But we're going to be human, and we're going to be not so survival-oriented. We're, in fact, going to be champions. We're going to be winners. We're not going to be try to surviving this point. We're going to take control of it completely. And we need that big, strong frontal cortex full of energy to do that. This is why that deep breath is so important. And yet a lot of people don't get that, especially when they're doing the body scans. The body scans are actually best done during deep breathing and then watching the body as it's moving with those deep breaths. And then we alternate back and forth between the what is called the long and the short, but they're actually what they mean is deep and ordinary kind of breathing. We're not talking about duration of time with a clock. We're talking about basically how much the body moves. But even by talking about that, we still haven't talked about this Vedana. And the Vedana winds up being an important quality. Now, a lot of people think that, oh, I practice Kaya Nupassana for a long time, and then I'll do Vedana Nupassana for a long time, and eventually I'll do Sita Nupassana for a long time, and then when I'm really good, I'll get finally to the Dhamma Nupassana and do it that way. That's not the way that it needs to be practiced. It needs to be practiced like or played like a piano, that any note can come next, one by one as they occur. And so we start working with Vedana right away, and this is the part that most students are missing. Do you know the steps of the Vedana? You probably know the body is the long breath in and out. Second is the short breath in and out. The third one is experiencing the whole body. That's where we're doing the body scan. The fourth one is relaxing the whole body. But the relaxation of the body can't happen until the mind is relaxed. And so the whole quality of doing them in order is not right. We've got to mix the order up to get some other things done. Now, step number 5 is what is called rapture or piti. Step 6 is called sukha or pleasure. But a lot of students don't understand what these are. The next one is to experience the bodily, or excuse me, the mental formations. But in this case, we're not talking about mental formations of, let us say, the conscious mind or the presence of mind. We're talking about the formations in the sense of the old stored map, and how that old stored map is used in the processing of our data currently to come up with a polluted understanding of something. A clear idea of that is there's two people that are standing on a street corner. They know each other. They see someone across the street. They really, neither one of them know that person, but still they'll both have a different reaction to him because of their old past, depending upon the way he's dressed, whether he looks like an old college professor to one and a bum to the other, or whatever like that. But you can recognize that old past flavors our present moment, and we have to learn how to see that. Once we can see that and we understand these old sankaras and the way that our perception is using that data to process in order to come up with current understandings, then we can start to see how we can put a lid on that stuff and let the past be the past and let it die out.
Is that still in the Vedana Nupassana, or is that in...
Right, I am down walking through step up to number 8. Step number 8 is it's translated as tranquilizing the mental formations. The word formation is actually the word sankara. In the Pali, the word sita here is translated in the Thai language as jai, which means emotions or heart, as opposed to the mental process. All right, and the tranquilizing actually just means let it go or let it be at rest. We stay out of the past as much as possible. So now that we're understanding that as a sequence, let's put it together in action. First off, do you know what the word piti means?
Not fully. I often hear it as like a bodily excitation, or maybe also partly mental, like being excited, something like that, sort of joyful.
All right. Okay, that's a better one. All right. Joyful. I hear people saying excited. Sometimes we could use the word thrill. But in all respects, the first thing that we have to understand is that there are two kinds of piti. That kind of piti that we go to the outside world to get, which we would call worldly or sensual desire-oriented piti. And that's the one that we need to do some research on so that we can begin to understand what is really meant by the piti of the spiritual world, or that which needs to be manufactured mentally. Because in fact, in the sutta that we're talking about, the Anapanasati Sutta, all of the steps use a verb that's different than the first two steps. The first two steps is understanding the long breath as you breathe in. It's just a matter of knowing it, because everybody knows that doesn't take a lot of skill to do. But all of the others, including this step 5, is the verb is train, to train the mind for piti.
Okay.
To begin to train it, all right? Now let's talk about what it is like in the world. In the world, this is the exhilaration that sports people will have, the exhilaration of dancers, the exhilaration of a well-done performance. An example would be the athlete who is training for the 100 yards dash. And he gets so close to the finish line that right before he breaks across the finish line, he knows he's won that race. And so as he runs that race, he pokes his chest out and he breaks that ribbon with his chest. He's no longer running when he hits that goal. When he hits that goal, he hits it this way. All right? You got to smile. This is what I'm looking for. I want you to get this. All right? Here's another example. The real estate lady who gets her contract finally signed. She's got both the buyer and the seller, and she's got that signature. And it's mine. I got it. I win. I'm the one. Okay. And so she has a big lunch and she tells all her girlfriends about it. And she just dances her way through the restaurant. She's just on high gear. You know, this is the high note. This is what people are looking for. Something that we can get so absorbed in because we feel so good about it, because we feel successful. This is something that we've worked on and we've had to create.
It's a sort of flow, maybe, too. Like if you say you're so absorbed in it, it sounds like something you enjoy for doing itself so much that it creates this strong joy experience.
Except that in the mental world, we're actually going to know what this experience is based upon the fact that everyone, especially in the time of childhood, had these peak experiences. Not only did we have all of the old map making with all the suffering of childhood, children also have really good high peak experiences. And we somehow stopped having those really great, joyous aha moments. Now, one of the places that they remain, and this, every guy, they love it when I talk about this, it's the point in time when you know tonight on this date you're going to get laid. That's it. Right. You know what I'm talking about. That's the high. Okay, I've got it. Long before you put it in, you know that you're going to get it in.
All right.
Your success. Okay, now you're understanding what we're talking about. This is the piti. This is the rapture. That is the juicy part of the meditation that everyone keeps missing. Because I say gladden the mind, and they say, oh yeah, I can gladden the mind. Oh no, we're gladdening the mind because we're trying to infect this joyous, winning state of, I've got it. The reward.
And now
the whole point.
I'm wondering how you get to that in meditation, because those are kind of outward things. I know something good is going to happen. And in meditation, it's more like you constantly work on,
Okay. You're asking the same kind of question because you're mentioning it a little bit. It's not the exhilaration of almost getting it where there's still a question. This is actually the success itself.
Okay.
This is the knowledge that I've won. And with that comes the next phase is the sukha, which is the relaxation. That the effort has been put in, the triumph is won, the enemy is vanquished, and now immediately after that we go from step 5 to step 6, which is the sukha. And now with the rapture, that hit of success. And what is the success? One of the successes that you'll have is when you begin to see how the mind works. Eureka! I can see how that darn thing is working now. Or when you begin to see suffering, we can say, Eureka! I can see the suffering. In the beginning, it's Eureka! I can see that the mind has wandered away. But it's still the Eureka that we want to create. The exhilaration of, I'm successful at meditation. I am a meditating dude now. I am successful at it. Now, in the Sutta number 48, the Buddha calls this actually the first knowledge that is super mundane, noble, and a factor of the path. Now, the path that he's talking about here is the path of Sotapanna. The first step of the Sotapanna is this exhilaration that we're talking about. That no matter, and it's stated like this, no matter how the mind is obstructed, we can throw that stuff out and come back to the present moment. And we know it, that we can do it. Aha, I caught you again, Mr. Murky Mind. Mr. In the past there thought. I see you.
Yeah.
And we take a really great joy, a big lick out of being able to do that, so that we give ourselves not the benefit of the doubt, but the benefit of the win.
Oh man, that's so valuable. It's like I so easily get drowned in this. Oh, it's so much, and it's just kind of gonna keep going, and I won't be able to handle this for a whole lifetime. And
But in the moment, if you can say, oh no, I can do it right now, no matter how obstructed the mind is right now, I can come out of it. I can win this one. I can be successful. That success then is what we use as the, let us call it, if you want to, the fire under the rapture that will launch the balloon. That in fact, if you think about it like this is actually the experience that people have that they'll get confused over, thinking that they've reached the final goal because they feel so good. To where, oh no, this feeling good, feeling that good is actually part of the practice to feel good, the practice to really be successful at the meditation. So that's the first step. Now, here's one of the qualities of it. Don't try to get it better and better. I've got it up to this level, but I want it a little bit better. Don't do it that way, but rather hit the peak, whatever that is, and then let it slide into the relaxation of the sukha. Because what we're doing